Hello and welcome to my channel. In this lecture we will talk about smooth muscles, so let's begin. Smooth muscles are the third kind of muscles present in the body other than the cardiac and skeletal muscles. They are non-striated muscles which have no sarcomeres and no striations in it. So don't expect the regular arrangement of myofibrils in the muscle fibers like the cardiac and skeletal muscles. You can find smooth muscles in hollow organs, in the walls of hollow organs. They consist the hollow organs actually, including the GIT, the urinary bladder, the uterus, for example. You can find them in the passageways such as blood and lymph vessels, and in the tracts of respiratory system, the urinary system, and the reproductive system. In the eyes also, there is a smooth muscle called the ciliary body or the ciliary muscle. It's connected to the lens through suspensory ligaments, so when contracting, leading to the relaxation of the lens and increase the power of the eye, the power of the lens of the eye. And also it forms the iris, which regulates the size of the pupil, supplied by autonomic nerves. Also in the skin, as you can see here, this band of muscle attached to the base of the hair follicle, and when contracting it squeezes the nearby sweat gland. This is the erector pili muscle, responsible for the movement of the hair follicle. The structure of smooth muscles, there are what so-called dense bodies connected to each other by intermediate filaments and in a form of a network around the muscle through the sarcoplasm, and this causes the muscle to contract. They pull on each other, leading to decrease in the size of the muscle, so contracting the muscle. On top there is a series of axon-like swellings called varicosities. These are vesicles connected by autonomic neurons, and the vesicles are filled up with neurotransmitters for spreading the impulse all over the muscle cells, so causing the contraction of the muscle. This is called the motor unit of the smooth muscle. Smooth muscles differ from skeletal and cardiac muscle in their ability to stretch and still maintain contractility. This is essential for the function of hollow organs such as the intestine and urinary bladder. So they differ with the other muscles in their structure, in their function, in their regulation of contraction even. The microanatomy of smooth muscles. The smooth muscle cell is known as the myocyte, and it's a spindle-shaped cell with rounded nucleus. Spindle-shaped means wide in the middle and tapers at the ends. There are no myofibrils there. It doesn't mean that no actin and myosin. No, there is actin and myosin, but they are not arranged in a myofibril manner. The actin and myosin together have the capability to contract the muscle. Let's talk about dense bodies for a while. The dense bodies provide attachment to the actin filaments. Dense bodies themselves are rich in two types of actin, alpha actin and beta actin. The alpha actin also attach intermediate filaments that connects the dense bodies together. The intermediate filaments, the ones you see here, are largely composed of proteins vimentin and desmin. And so the dense bodies serve as anchors for which the thin filaments can exert their force of contraction. The beta-actin component of the dense bodies is a type of actin found in cytoskeleton. So the dense bodies coordinate tensions from both the contractile machine of the cell and the cytoskeleton. The intermediate filaments are connected to each other via dense bodies, and the dense bodies eventually attach to adherence junctions to the sarcolemma of the cell. Adherence junctions, also called focal adhesions, and they connect the cytoskeleton cytoskeleton of the cell to the dense bodies. Now, for the spread of, or to make sure that there is contraction all over the cells or the smooth muscle, they are connected by two junctions, two types of junctions. One that connects the skeleton of the cells to each other, it's called adhesions junctions. This is a mechanical junction that makes sure that the cells are coupled to one another, and the contraction of one cell invokes some degree of contraction in a adjoining cell. You can see the adhesance junction here. So you see the cytoskeleton of the two cells are connected to each other. Other type of junctions present to make sure that the spread of impulse is as rapid as possible. These are called gap junctions, made up of units called connexins, and they ensure that the adjacent cells are coupled chemically and electrically. So it facilitates the spread of chemicals such as calcium, for example, and the action potentials between the smooth muscle cells. Now, for contraction to occur, there must be sliding of myosin and actin filaments on each other. This is called the sliding filament mechanism, and this requires energy derived from the hydrolysis of ATP, and the ATP here is utilized by the myosin itself because the myosin functions as an ATPase. When utilizes ATP, it produces a molecular conformational change of part of the myosin and produces movement, and so the contraction occurs. Now, movements of the filaments over each other happens because the myosin, the thick filament, has an arm, a neck, and a globular head. This globular head attaches itself to the molecule of actin at certain sites, and causing it to glides it or pulls it, slides it over for a distance, and then it gets released and then repeats the attachment again to glide the actin molecule over the actin molecule for another distance. They can then rebind to the actin molecule and drag it along further, and this is called the cross-bridge cycling. So the cross-bridge cycling by the movement of the myosin over the actin is the cause of contraction, or the mechanism of contraction in smooth muscles, and actually it's the mechanism of contraction of all other muscle types. It's the same principle. Smooth muscles don't contain the calcium binding protein troponin. In other muscles, the myosin binds to locations or protein called troponin. that leads to contraction. But in this case, in smooth muscles, there is no troponin. Contraction is initiated by phosphorylation of myosin itself, rather than depending on a troponin molecule to be activated by calcium, which does not exist. The cross-bridge cycling causes contraction of myosin and actin, and in turn increased tension along the entire chains of tensile structures, ultimately resulting in contraction of the entire smooth muscle tissue. As you can see here, this is the contracted state where the myosin is attached to the actin and causing it to glide, and this is the uncontracted state where there is elongation of the muscle and relaxation by means of relaxation. Observe that the transmission of forces is achieved by the dense body anchoring the intermediate filaments that are attached to the cell wall. Related diseases of the smooth muscles. For example, there is multisystemic smooth muscle dysfunction syndrome. It's a genetic disorder in which the body in the developing embryo does not create enough smooth muscle for the GIT. Also, there is a type of autoimmune disease. It's called anti-smooth muscle antibodies, where the body attacks itself or attacks the smooth muscles in this case, and usually accompanied with hepatitis, cirrhosis, or systemic lupus erythematosus. Smooth muscle tumors are most commonly benign, and they are called leiomyomas. They occur most commonly in the uterus, the small bowel, and the esophagus. When malignant, these tumors are called leiomyosarcomas. I hope you got the maximum benefit from this lecture, and thank you very much for watching.